you guys can see my screen. So we created this interface, and we also have to change a lot of approaches because the order is being now changed for the before we used to go with the CDT query entity and creating the interface, but now everything goes through the record, so we have to change the order. All right, so anyways, so we created one record, right? If you guys remember, this record we created, and then here we also added one action, and that action was about the creating another vendor, right? And then if you see the process model, it also created one process model where it captures the interface, and then it includes that interface to the process model and take a workflow. So what do we need to learn today is that how do we create an interface that we have seen, and now how do we see that how do we integrate that interface to the process model, right? So to do so in this thing, right, we will learn that how the things are being out of box feature is creating the objects for you in Appian, and then how we can also create it by yourself. This was a process model that was created by Appian, the out of box feature. We just click on this icon and add action, and it did everything for us. Now we'll see that how actually we can create a process model and we can configure it in the record itself, because the record also allows you to do you want to create the action automatically by using the out of box feature, or you want to configure it manually, right? So we'll see all those options. So right now we are going to create an interface and a process model with ourselves. Okay, all right. So this was a record. We have all these fields. Now if you go to the action, now we see that in the action we have one action called new vendor, and this we created by using the out of box feature. We can simply create a new actions right away within the seconds. It will be there. The create already done. We can click on this update and delete, and then we can generate, and the code will be ready for you, right? But let's say if I want to create an interface for update, right, and then how do we see that how the update works? So we will use all the manual approach. Okay, so you can understand how this works. Okay, all right, so let's first create an interface for update. We could have easily use this existing interface to do so, not this one, this create vendor one, because the update will look like very much same. We could have easily done that, but now as we are going to create it manually, we'll see with the code how it works, how we can create it. Okay, and because we also have to display this license certificate as a downloadable form, so we can also see that okay, this is the certificate that is already attached. We need to change it if we want to. All right, okay, then let's go and start creating the interface. So first of all, we'll say new and then interface. Now we'll name as update vendor. Okay, so this interface, oh, it's already there. You see, create vendor is there. I don't see update vendor. Maybe someone else is using the same name. Maybe someone else in the India instance they are creating this. Okay, no worries. I'll say update vendor details. So this interface will allow user to update the vendor details. Okay, I'll say create. Right, so when we create an interface, it will be blank totally, isn't it? Now what we need to do is that we need to create a data. So this update interface, right, should have the vendor details already available to it, right? It means this interface required the vendor details from somewhere, isn't it? Are you getting my point? Whenever user click on this action update vendor, they should be getting all the details already available here filled up so that they can go and edit, right? So what do we need to create so that they can have values here already?
maybe Ravi, you're saying that if we go through the action, this will be automatically uh, developed, right, by the
Right.
API.
Right.
Then we are creating it manually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see. I see your point.
Right. So I'm asking that, whenever user click, let's say just now we in the record we have action called create add vendor, right? Let's say when we open the vendor and then we say update vendor. When user click on the update vendor, the interface will pop up with the details filled up, right? So this interface will require the details to be passed, right? So if I want to get those information, what is the first step we have to do? I'm dragging a form layout, right? Now I'm going
Ravi, can
to.
I ask a question here?
Mhm.
If uh, if people, I can understand this what you're saying, but the person who is new to this concept, uh, how do they know that? If we create an update and then delete it, from then they will understand. Hopefully,
Right, right. I mean, it's just a learning phase, right? We see that how do we Appian out of box features we can create an application, and we also need
I
to
see.
learn that how do we do with the code, right?
Okay.
Because if you have to update the code, if you have to fix some issues, that
Uh-huh.
cannot be done by using a Appian out of box feature, right? You have to get into the code to learn this, right? So
Okay.
that's why. Okay, so if I want to pass the value here, already existing values, like let's say you click on the vendor one, and then you want whenever you click on that vendor and say update the vendor details, all the vendor details should be updated, right? So how do we know that? How do we get that value? So to get that value, we would like to create a rule input. Right? I give the name as vendor record, because whenever we click on the record type, right, it's the value that we have is a record type. So I can have SCM vendor. This is a record type that we have. So I create this. I'll say create. Now you see this, a vendor record rule input has been created. Now what we can do with this vendor record rule input, you can um, provide some value to this, and then those value will be auto populated here. All right. Now update vendor. If you want, you can provide the vendor ID here. So let's say I'm gonna put update vendor. I would use the expression. I put some hyphen here, and I'll say rule input RI bank vendor record. Now, if I want to provide any field to the rule input, I would say record type SCM vendor dot fields dot vendor ID. So now what will happen? Whatever vendor we will create, it will start displaying that number as well, that vendor ID. Okay. Any question till here, guys? Now, if you see what's the code behind it, so let's go to the expression mode and I'll show you the code. So this is the code is being generated for us till now. So we have one form layout used, giving the label, and then we have this buttons. So those buttons are here. But there is some issue why the code didn't come here. Let me go check again. Update vendor, and that's what ampersand role input vendor record type SCM vendor dot field dot vendor ID. Okay. Okay. Now if you go to the expression, yeah, code is there. So whatever code we write from the design mode, you can also see on your expression mode. So this is the code till we have created. Now if you see this form layout have a contains within the curly braces. So this contained area allows you to design the other objects that you wanted to display here, right? So first of all, we would like to have a columns layout, right? Because a columns layout can divide your screen into 3 columns. So how do we start a columns layout? So we have a function called a bang column layout. There is an s in the function name. Now hit enter. Now let's say if you don't remember what are the parameters that we have for a columns layout, don't have to worry about it. You can simply understand by looking the description window below. If you click inside the columns layout, it will start giving you the description of the particular function. Now it says we have columns, so let's use the columns. Right now columns could be multiple, so I just use the curly braces. Now the number of columns you want, if you go to the columns attribute here, it says columns to be displayed using a bank column layout. Okay, then we'll use a bank column layout. I'll say a bank column layout. You see there is no s. The difference between the parent function and the child function is that it doesn't have an s in here. So one column layout. Okay, similarly I want to divide into 3 columns, so I'll use 3 column layouts. Right, you are not able to see the difference here on the UI because nothing is there inside the column layout, but this particular section between these two lines has been divided into 3 portions. Now let's say how we can see that. Now each column layout have a content, so I'll say content. Right, now each column layout have a content. So what is the content I want to display? So let's see what are the contents we have in the create vendor. We have license number. So let's say I'm going to create a bank text field, right, and the label I would say license number. Right, now you see that this a text field that we have created is just taking this much of area. It means the UI that we have created is being divided. Now license number, it should have the license number, it should display the license number that the vendor we have clicked. So for that we need to use value parameter, and value parameter we have to refer like RI bank vendor record, the one that user has clicked, and we have to define the field SCM vendor dot field dot license number. Right, if you do like that, then whatever vendor you have clicked, those license number will appear here. Now user can also modify that, right? So if user can modify that, then we also need to use the save into parameter. Whatever user will modify, it has to save into the same field. So now let's say if I click test data here, let me see. I think that was license number, like this was it is. Let me check. Yeah, license number. Now you see that what I did in the test panel, I'm just passing ABC. Okay, so if you go to the interface, you see that license number is not displaying the ABC. If I make the change and make it DEF, it should get updated. Right, you see this one, this is get updated. If I go in the full input parameter, I would see that this is updated to DEF. Is that clear? What is the use of test panel, what we are doing it here, and how we are getting the values displayed? So just like this way, whenever we click on the actual vendor ID and say that update it, those vendor details will come up by using this RI, and then it will display. And as we are using the same save into, what will happen is that it will update the same value. So it was initially having ABC. You see that it is passing ABC, but now what we did is we updated it and it becomes DEF. Let me show you. Right? You see it's changing as well. Right, so likewise we can also update the values. Now what are other parameters that we have to set? Sorry, one second. It should be required, so I'll say required true. Right, once we do the required true, what happens? A star mark will get added, and which will say that this field is a mandatory. You cannot simply go and remove the field. And if you do so, if you do like that and click on submit, it will out of box feature will appear here and say that a value is required. You cannot simply submit the form without having any value for license number field. You don't have to write any code for it. Okay, any question till here, guys?
No way.
All right. All right then. Now the second, in the first column, the second field that we have is GST number. So let's do the same. What we can do, it is going to be in this first column itself, right? So I can copy this code, put it below, just change the label to GST number. Now what else we have to change?
Value and save into, right?
Right. So in the value, right now it is referring to the license number. We have to change field to GST number. And then here as well, we have to change to the GST number. Okay. Right. Any question, any doubt? All right. What is the third? It's a vendor name. Now let's say I'm copying this field and I'm going to tell the user, see, you want to change the details, that is fine. You want to update the details, which is fine, but you cannot change the vendor name, right? So first of all, what we need to change?
Read only, right? This is going to be read only.
Okay, so for the value parameter, I'm going to say vendor name. Okay, we don't need a save into because we are not going to allow user to change it. Required, I don't want this parameter because this is not an editable field. So what we will do, we will say that read only true, right? Now if you do like that, what will happen? Let's say I'm going to use the parameter here as well. Let's say vendor name and say KP Enterprise. Okay, that's the one. There's a certain issue here. Okay, comma is missing. Okay, now if you do like that, you see that vendor name is displaying as KP Enterprise, but it's read only. We cannot modify it, right? Now let's say I have a vendor ID. Let me pull some more details here. I have a field called vendor ID. Let's say I'm going to say vendor ID 1. Okay, and then now you see this one is displaying here, right? This vendor ID, because all these are the test data that we are passing. Okay, we can pass some test data to see how our interface look like, right? So if we are not allowing user to change the vendor name, right? What do you think? What is the UI changes you should suggest to the business? Think as a designer perspective. Tell me, we are not allowing user to change this name. So what else we can do with this field? There is no logic, just simply UI perspective I'm asking. What do you think? What could be a best practice to display the vendor name? I want to display the vendor name, but could be a better place.
At the top,
By using constant run.
No, nothing is a use of constant. We can't say that which vendor name we have, right? I'm just
so what
asking where. That's correct, right? This vendor name, this field that has a vendor name. What if I use this vendor name to display update vendor and put a ampersand here, put let's say big parenthesis, right? Have some space, again ampersand, and put this vendor name, right? And then again ampersand and closing this parenthesis. If I do like that, right, what will happen is that you will see that it will now say if parenthesis doesn't look good, then we can remove it. Okay, put a space though, vendor ID ampersand dash. right? Now what we can do is that instead of having a field, we can display the vendor name at the top. We'll say update vendor, vendor ID, and then the name of the vendor, right? So what we can do, we can simply remove this field from here because we are not allowing them anyways to change it. Make sense? Is that clear? Any question? So the label of the form, I'm giving the details. I'm saying update the vendor ID, and the name of the vendor. Understood? Clear? Okay. All right. Now what else we can do? We have the second the details to be said. So vendor name, we are not allowing to change it, right? Now we say that you can update your email address, right? You can update your mobile number. You cannot update your registration date, right? So vendor name, category, and address. Let's say I'm gonna say, okay, email you can update. So I'm gonna put one more field here in the first column layout. I'm gonna say email. So we are going to allow them to change their email address. So what we need to change? We just need to change the mapping of the field here. Let's say email. Now let's say if I go to the text panel and I'll pass some email here. Right, this is the interface. Now we will be able to see that email address. Now you can, if user want, they can change it. Clear? Any doubt? All right. Now let's say move to the second column layout. In the second column layout, again we'll put contains, and then we will allow them to change, let's say, mobile number. So copy this, paste it here, change to the contact or whatever we have given. I think it says mobile, so I'll say mobile, and we have to change this field from field mobile. Right, so that will, as we have used the second column layout, so this is not displaying it here. Okay, what else we have? We have registration date, which should not be editable. So what we can do, we can display such information here that you cannot change the registration date. So I'm going to display those field here. Let's say you know what, better to move this email as well to the second column. It will look good. So I'm just moving that field here. Okay, so mobile and email will be together. We have two field into your first column, two field on your second column. Now registration date, I want to display the registration date as a read only form. So what I can do in the third column, I'll put a content, and I would say right, I'll say registration date. We have to change this parameter here, field dot registration on. We don't need a save into, we don't need a required true, but what do we need is read only true. Right, now if you do that, let's say I'm going to put some registration date here. Sorry, not here. Oh, I removed that field, maybe I didn't save it. Okay, fine, no worries. Let's say registration on, right? Let's say I'm going to put today function for today's date.
So do you have to click set as a default, then only it saves? I don't know.
Yeah, default I didn't click on registered on. So registered on. Let me have the other values. Let's say vendor ID, let's say 1, vendor name, ABC technology, license number, and then we have GST number, and then email, and then we have, let's say, a mobile, right? What else? Okay, fine. So I'll just set as a default and test. Now you see that all these fields are coming up here. Now registration date as a read only, so it's displaying, displaying like this. Okay. Now let's say the label, if you want to change, ideally for the editable field, we should be displaying the label as an above, which is by default. We don't have to define it. In case you want to change the label position, we can say the label position. And what are the associated value for the label position? You can simply see it here. So the label positions are, it could be above, which is a default. We could have adjacent, justified, and collapsed. So let's say what happens if I use a just adjacent. If I use just adjacent, then it will be like this. Okay, right? Now we have another field to be displayed as a read only. That's called address. Now for this one, I would like to have above because the address will be, some having some details, right? It doesn't look good though. This one I have to make justified, and it will come like this. Yeah, okay. Now address, I have to change the field here for an address. We have not given the test data, so let me put some data here. Address, I will say East Mumbai, Maharashtra. That's all. Yeah. You can have some street and all. Maybe see straight, right? Okay. Test interface. Oh, we didn't click on it again. Okay. All right. Now see this. This is giving you a date, registration date, address, and all, right? So we have this field. Okay. Clear? Any question till here, guys? So we designed this interface from the beginning. We created each and every field. We have one more field to be provided. That's license certificate, right? We should not allow them to change that license certificate. So that's why I haven't given the field. We'll take that field at the top here. So any question till here, guys? We are only allowing few fields to be changed so that they cannot update other details, right? This should not be updating the registration date, should not be updating the address, name, right? But what they can change their license number, GST number, mobile number, and email, right? What we can else do, the button name that we have submit, we can say that as an update. So it will become as an update. Yeah, go ahead.
License certificate, right, Ravi? And they can come here and see, read-only format. They don't like it, they can delete. I mean, update again, upload again. If they can do it.
If you want to have such feature, you can have it. That's not an issue. You can allow them to delete and upload it. That's not an issue. But let's say I want to display first of all the license certificate. So I'm gonna have eBank document download link. I think that should work. Okay, I think it doesn't allow, like, okay, let me go with the a bank link field. Okay, so I'll download, we are going to allow the user to download a document. For that, we'll allow them to have a link field. I'll say label, I'm gonna say license certificate. Okay, now value, or the links, right? The links that we're going to have is a bank document download link. Now here we need to provide a proper document ID, otherwise Appian will not be able to find that. So let me go and open this record type, and the document that we have uploaded for those two vendors that we have, we can use that particular ID so that we can have a proper document ID. Let me open the record, right? Document ID license certificate, right? This is the one. So we can use any one of them. So this is one of the actual document ID that we have. So I'm going to use this license certificate. What's the parameter name? License certificate. Okay, so I'm going to use license certificate, and I'm going to provide this number. Why I'm giving this number? Because this is the actual document ID that we have available into the system, so that we can see it. All right, now document download link requires three parameters. I have a document, so I'll just use a document, and I'll give the RI bank record type SCM vendor dot field dot license certificate, and this is what we have given certain number there. Now you see this, right now nothing is being displayed here. Why? Because we have not given the name of it. So for the label parameter, we can use a document function and then provide the document ID, which is nothing but this one, and I would say the property I would like to have to be displayed is you can see it here, folder name, name of the document. So I'll just use this property. Now if you do like that, then you see this, it is saying that Appian demo. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to have a label position for this one, and I say justified. So this was a document that we uploaded to the system, which I see the document download link. If I click on it, the same document will get downloaded, and you can check that. Okay, so these are the fields that we are not allowing user to change, and here the field that we are allowing to change. And we see that if we have uploaded any document, now based on the document ID that Appian generates, based on the documents that Appian generates, it generates the document ID, and using that document ID we can actually download those documents in the system. Any question till here?
Hi Ravi, may I audible?
Yeah.
Actually, in update also, the user want to upload document means how it is
Mhm.
possible?
So you make this an editable field. You remove this document and you upload a new document, just like the way we are doing it for the editable field here. So what we need to do is that we need to use a file upload component instead of download document component. Right? Let's say, let me show you here as well. Let's say I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use, let's say, in below the GST number. Let's say I'm gonna have a bank file upload. Okay, we would require the same code. I'll say label as license certificate, right? Label position is going to be above, and target, we need to provide the same target that we have here, the folder. If you remember, we created the folder. So basically we can copy this code, right? So I'm copying this target because here I want to upload my document, right? And then max selection, I would say 1. In the value, I will use the same RI bang vendor record type SCM vendor dot field dot res and certificate. In the save into, I'll use the same, right? And then we say required true. Now what it will do, it will display the existing document that you have uploaded. You see the name is same, right? The one that you are going to download here is the same name. Now what you need to do, you need to remove this, right? And then you have to upload one. Document does not, okay, it is breaking because once we remove this field will not work, right? Because we have removed the document. So we need to comment the code. Okay, now once you remove, it will allow you to upload it again. So same component you can have it, right, to upload the document back. So either if you want allow them to change the document, then you use the file upload component. Otherwise you can use download document link field component to display the document. Clear?
Okay, thank you, Ravi.
Okay. All right, save the changes. So we are almost done with the code. Now let's say we have two buttons, update and cancel, right? Now how do user understand that what button user has clicked? So for that I'm going to have one more rule input. I'm going to say button action. It's going to be type of text, create. Now whenever user will click on update button, so what I'm going to say that value as update and save into RI button action. So see here we don't use that a bank save. Why? Because we want to save a direct value to a direct field, direct role input. So we don't need a bank save. Now for the cancel, we can remove this and we can say for the cancel, we say cancel and save into RI bang button action. Doesn't matter if you want to remove this curly braces, which is fine. That's not an issue. So what will happen if I click on cancel? My button action will hold the value as cancel. If I click on update, my button action will have the value of the update. So we will know on the process model label what the action user has taken, and based on that we will take a decision, right? Any question till here, guys? This interface designing. So we see that how Appian creates an interface for you and how you can customize it, and we have also seen how do we create an interface from the basic, from the scratch, using the design mode and the expression mode. We see that how do we do that. So this is the expression mode. We see all the code is here. If I go to the design mode, we'll see all the drag and drop. Okay. Okay. No questions?
Yeah.
How about others? All right. So whoever was in the last class, I gave a task, right? So Venkatesh has shown me. Kalpana, how about you? Did you create that calculator?
No, Ravi, I couldn't do that. I have to practice again.
Okay. All right. Okay then. Let's stop here. Design this interface. Okay, from the scratch. Go through each and every step. See how we created that, and then show me the interface. So tomorrow we'll start the process model, and then we'll see that how do we configure this interface to the process model label. Okay.